Second to last question I've got for you, Coach. Texas Tech, their coach, I don't know if he was relieved or fired or just quit.
Mike Leach.
Mike Leach. And then also the guy down at South Florida, and he actually built that program from the ground up. Used to take the uniforms home and wash them. What do you think about their actions, on the field as far as – I know Mike Leach used an unorthodox style to motivate players, and to me it's a great style. I mean, I always look for creative ways to motivate my soldiers, like the Desert Diva who's standing there. But what do you think about, do you think we're kind of babying people too much, or?
Well, it's hard. I wasn't there when those things happened. Kids are different today. Parents are different today than they used to be. And I have a lot of respect for both those coaches you mentioned. I think they're great coaches and they've done some unbelievable things. I do think there is a little bit of an attitude amongst college administrators and presidents to keep an eye and ear out for anything that's out of the ordinary relationship to the handling of student athletes. So, but I can't say enough about both those men. They're great coaches, and it's an emotional game, and it's a physical game, and your emotions sometimes get the best of you, and you hope the players understand that part of it. So,
well, I mean, it's like Bear Bryant. He used to coach, from the top of that tower in the 100-degree heat, and he won though, and nobody complained. So, do you think if those guys?
Well, both those guys won too. I mean,
they did. Mike Leach was a great coach, and South Florida. I mean, he
built that program.
Yeah, those guys were coming on hard there in Big East.
Yeah, I think it's a tough time in college athletics in relationship to all the issues that come up, and we put everything under a microscope right now, and really don't look at the actual situation. We look at what's going to come about because of this situation, more so than the situation itself. And with the internet and the media and everything blown out of proportion and the constant, information that fans and people get, it's a different world we live in. And if you gotta, I guess you gotta play by a different set of rules now.
Yeah, well, I know we joke about the good idea fairy around here, and I'm sure the NCAA has a whole slew of good idea fairies over there. So that will be interesting to see what comes down the pipe for you guys, for coaches.
Yeah, there are some good things that the NCAA has done in relationship to monitoring the time that student athletes have to spend, are allowed to spend in their sport, which I think coaches have a tendency to cross that line, or I have in the past, a little too frequently, because these kids are still students. They still have to go to school, and it's a travesty if in 4 years down the road they don't have their degree, and that university has allowed them to run out of that tunnel, win football games, and that player now is going on into a life without a degree. So I think we owe that to those players to make sure that they, even if they don't understand at the time, that they have to go get that degree. And so I think some things the NCAA has done has been pretty good, but I think on the other side of things, sometimes maybe their nose is in a lot of business that it doesn't need to be.
All right, cool. My last question,
I can
Coach.
say that over here in Iraq, but I can't say that over there.
Yeah, I don't think you'll get fined over here.
I appreciate that.
I think you're good.
Can I talk about the officials too now?
Yeah,
okay,
you can
that's
do
great.
Anything you want.
That's great. I have a lot of things I can say about them. But.
Last question that I have: the BCS and lack of tournament. Your thoughts?
Well, my proposal would be that, and I think we can come to some logic here, where we come up with 4 teams that are 4 worthy teams of being national champions at the end of a season. You create a lot of problems, I think, in the playoff system. Now, I'd say most coaches would like the bowl system, because it kind of helps secure your job with those alumni, because you have a chance to win a game at the end of the year, and in a bowl situation. If you're in a playoff system, much like the National Football League, everybody's going to lose in the playoffs except one team, and one team's going to win the national championship or the Super Bowl in the National Football League. But I think if you can, but it's not equitable or feasible in college football in my mind, because you're talking about it. At the end of the season, these kids are in exams, and they're fighting like heck for their grades that are eventually going to carry them through their life. So you're talking about taking 4 weeks at the end of their semester, which normally is a slow period for them as they get ready for a bowl game. You can kids miss practice and go study and get with tutors and get caught up a little bit from the season. And if you're getting ready week in and week out and playing in a playoff system, it's very difficult, I think. And for those young people to be able to survive academically on the playing field in the classroom. So I think a great system would be to have have the coaches poll and the media poll, the fan poll, come up with 4 teams and let those 4 teams battle it out. And I think that would be. Now the 5th team is always going to complain, just like if you have 10 teams involved, the 11th team is going to complain. But I think it's more feasible and equitable to do it that way. To finally come up with 4 teams that are deserving. Maybe when we get to super conferences, the winner of each super conference, and then they battle it out.
But what do you think about, for example, the number 1 team at the beginning of the year? If they win out, they'll be the number 1 team at the end of the year. So I mean, you're leaving out your little schools. Who was it last year? Boise State.
Boise State.
They had a great season, but they were left out of the mix because their ranking at the beginning of the year was so high. I mean, they were out in 20s. And so it's impossible for them to jump some of your BCS conference schools, and still get into that big bowl game.
Well, strength of schedule plays a part in that. Boise and the head coach, Peterson, does a great job out there with that team, and they're very deserving. I think they've had tremendous success in recent history, particular. But I think strength of schedule is a factor in who you play, and in our situation, once we get into conference play, it's a battle every single week, and you come up with injuries because you're playing in some very intense football games, and guys get banged up, beat up, so your team gets a little bit depleted at different times. And last year we played 18 freshmen, so that then all of a sudden those freshmen are hurt, then their backups are playing. So situations come up because of that, but. There's no perfect system. Everybody has their way of doing it, but no one's going to be totally happy. But I do think if we use a power rating system on strength of schedule and we vote on it, and you can come up with 4 teams at the end, and then let them battle it out for the championship. And I think you'll have less debate over who's number 1. If an undefeated team makes it all the way, give them a chance to battle it out.